Carl and Lou here from Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for sure. And it's track by track time. We're talking about Fear Factory's Digimortal, the fourth studio album by the American industrial heavy metal band Fear Factory, released April 24th, 2001 by Roadrunner Records. It is, of course, a concept album and the final part of the trilogy that started with Demanufacture, continued with Obsolete. Both far superior albums. Yeah. Just going to throw it out there. And this is the sequel to that. It was the band's last album before they officially broke up in March 2002. And then we won't go... There's been a lot of history between that time and now with Fear Factory.
I think if you're in a band, I think you can even keep up.
Yeah.
Fear Factory, I'm just going to play
on, off, yeah, that kind of thing. So this album was a major part of my youth. I was 17 years old when this album came out. Yeah, 17 years old when this album came out. Finding my feet in metal. This album got a lot of plays. I'd heard Fear Factory beforehand. I was a fan of songs from Demanufacture and Obsolete and even Soul of a New Machine. But this was my jam at the time. I can actually place one song, and this one song puts me in a specific place.
Oh, really?
Off of this album. Yeah, it puts me, it's Acres of Skin, and it puts me in a place called Bromley, where I did work experience at a charity for 2 weeks in college, where I basically spent 2 weeks listening to music and inputting things into an Excel database. It was incredibly mind-numbingly boring, and in no way helped me prepare me for my future career. No. What are you going to do? That's what it immediately makes me think of. But a lot of these songs I've heard time and time again, so much so there are ones I never want to hear again. There are some that I'm like, I don't really remember ever giving this a chance or listening to it that often. And the thing is, there's a reason for this. I will argue that this album is front end heavy, back end not.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll get into that. I'm going to presume, considering I was 17 at the time, this would have made you 16.
I knew Linchpin.
Obviously.
The video, and obviously that was like a lot of rotation. Watching like Headbangers Born MTV with my dad and stuff. Like Linchpin was like on there a lot. But apart from that, not much else. And I went back to listen to it. I think like Invisible Wounds I've listened to quite a bit.
Of course.
But yeah, not much.
Okay.
Not really. And then obviously later on I kind of went back to the earlier stuff, and that's where it kind of went for me, Fear Factory. But this, when it first came out, Linchpin was all I knew of it.
Well, this kind of got lumped in the new metal category as well, which I'm never entirely sure why, other than the fact that it is a lot of Fear Factory trying to kind of latch onto a more popular side of their music. They've gone for a lot more anthemic stuff here compared to perhaps the more elaborate stuff you would find on Demanufacture and Obsolete. And certainly, compare this album to Soul of a New Machine. I mean, they're polar apart. I think nowadays people kind of look and reflect on this album a little bit more negatively than they may have done at the time. It was successful, but nowhere as successful as you might remember. I thought this was a huge hit. When I looked at the sales, I forgot to write them down, but I was like, oh, okay, it didn't do as good or well as people think. And I wonder if that's mainly because, really, when I thought about it, only one song from this album was a rotated single. Linchpin. Yeah. And that was it. And it's like, okay, but I remember more of them. It's like, oh, they never really got there. And then you hear them and you're like, okay, there's probably a good reason for that, actually. But we'll explain as we go through it.
I have to say, shit album cover as well. I thought it was a shit cover.
I think I can't really remember the album cover.
It's the outline of a human with all like the connecting kind of like diodes to it. It's just pretty bad.
No, don't remember the cover. When I think of this album, I just think of slightly blue-haired tinged Burton C. Bell flicking it back in a video for Linchpin. It's hot shit, mate. It's hot shit. Do you know what I mean? Let's not argue that crap. What will become? This is a cool first song. A little bit abrasive, but still extremely cool when compared to what Fear Factory was once before. I think the effects really enhance this one, but it's all about those drums. The drumming in this album overall is very, very strong. They are insane. I do have a complaint with this one. The chorus falls flat for me. So it's a cool song, but the chorus falls flat.
See, I liked it. I thought it was a nice, bouncy, chunky chorus. I liked it.
Okay.
And I can picture like people like bopping to it.
All right. Bopping. Yeah. I mean, it's club stuff.
Burton's vocals are so recognisable, which I really like. It's like right straight in there. I do like the climb to the chorus. It's a really strong start. I like that real, because it kind of goes. I can't obviously don't know the lyric. I can't remember the lyrics, but like the way it kind of climbs to what we will come. I really enjoyed. Yeah.
What will become? What will it be when we can see our eternity? What will become? What will it
Damaged. I find this track a bit boring overall, although it does have more in common with older Fear Factory at times. The problem is that it never really goes anywhere exciting. Even the chorus promises more than it can actually deliver.
Yeah, I thought solid track but not a classic. The computer effects of heaviness are good. The last breakdown's nice and heavy, so it's kind of like bookended, where like little bits, but it's not overall great.
Fair enough. Title track, Digimortal. This has got some heady groove, eccentric effects and meaty headbanger moments. The tempo is off, but I actually find that quite interesting and it keeps me on my toes. However, this song is all about its chorus. I will always love a bit of Brrraains A Bell soaring, letting it go, oof, you know?
I thought nice meaty intro and Burton's vocals really soar on this one.
Yep.
Which kind of made it stand out for me.
Yeah, agreed. I really like that one. No one. This has the unfortunate issue of sounding way too familiar to what we've got already. Though it's not, say, a bad song, this one lacks a hook. And I was like, oh shit, it already sounds quite repetitive at this early stage.
I feel it feels a bit fillery, like Damaged. So I put the same thing. Like I'm like, really, I want to listen to this track again. It's nice and heavy, but just a bit meh.
That's it.
That one.
We're going to hit a little series of hits, if you want, or my big numbers on this. Starting with, of course, Linchpin. Overplayed as fuck back in the day, right? But it's been a while since I've listened to it. So I was like, okay, that all overplayed thing doesn't really work because I have not put this song on for ages. And I do still like it. All right, it is a clear attempt for Fear Factory to try and become a little bit more commercial. But it worked. Yeah. That's the thing. For a bit on that. And the anthemic qualities they're very clear. That chorus is fire. Yeah. It is fire. And rarely do I say this, but I kind of dropped the hint I was going to bring it up. The video is so fucking good. Yeah. The video for this was ace.
I can still picture it.
Like, that screams at it. So, yeah, I mean, overplayed as hell. I'm not going to listen to it that often again, but just, that, you know, hearing that chorus again, you know, it's a good song. Yeah. It's an anthem. A Fear Factory anthem.
Definitely. This one still slaps, as the kids say. I still have this on multiple playlists and love how it works. Like just like the complexities of it. One of my favourite Fear Factory tracks. So not just on this album, but like of all Fear Factory songs.
That is insane. I can't. This wouldn't even be in my top 20.
No, man,
not even close. Because I don't know. I think maybe this is the difference, right? A major part of my Fear Factory love is often the more mellow side. I really enjoy the mellow stuff they do. It's why Descent. From Obsolete, Resurrection. I love a bit of the heaviness they bring to those, but those ones where we kind of get a little bit deeper and darker and colder, I've always really enjoyed. So but then like I can still enjoy the likes of Shock, Edge Crusher, of course. They're bangers, but like they're behind the likes of, you know what I'm talking. You know, that's kind of how it's always been. Which does mean the next track, The Invisible Wounds. In brackets, Dark Bodies, I've got a lot of love for. Yeah. In fact, I'd say now I appreciate this track more than I did before. This has an excellent track with the right amount of heaviness and melodrama to deliver an immense listening experience. I think it gets so much right, from the melody to the heavy bits to the chorus and the drift away. I think this is a brilliant track and generally deserves probably the most attention on this album.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously everything else seems... It's either filler or anthem, like there's no, but this kind of just does its own thing. You've just nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. It does its own thing. It is different to everything else around it to a degree. Maybe at the end is a little bit more touching towards it, but I would say, like, considering its position, there's nothing like this on the album. No, and this is the kind of elements that they took into future albums, and that's the stuff that I think really feels really works well from past. It's like an in-betweener run, isn't it? Yeah. I really like the heavy breakdown towards the end. It is a good track.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, that blast. And then, like, and it's roaring and roaring. And it just lets his voice just... It's like a gust of wind just comes bursting in and takes his voice away. Yeah. That's incredible.
I was going to say, is that reference to, like, seeing him at festivals more recently? But, no. Yeah.
Acres of Skin. This was always one of my favourite back in the day. Easily one of my favourite back in the day. And I must say, I still really enjoy it. It is the perfect heavy palate cleanser. And see Fear Factory really pushing the limits of their heavy side. The pre-chorus is so cool. And the chorus changes the tone up nicely. Big fan of this one. So this is the one that placed me in a thing.
I bought a pretty solid track, but nothing special.
Ah.
My favourite part is the crunchy breakdown into Acres of Skin. Like you said, that build up to the chorus.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Back the Fuck Up, featuring Be Real. Nah, this one does nothing for me.
Yeah.
A collaboration I don't care for. An attempt to follow the route of so many bands by combining hip-hop elements with metal. Here's the thing, I suppose it's not terrible, but I just find it so passé. And, what is the point of Be Real? I don't think he enhances anything in this track.
No.
He's there, I caught him, and I was like, oh, is that it?
I know his vocal. I recognise his vocals from Cypress
Even
Hill,
if you don't know Be Real's music or voice, that's not Burnt Bell. Like, it's clearly not a different vocalist. What I'm saying is, to me, when I saw it, I was like, ah, man, what did you hang around with Soulfly and decide to do what they, it's so Soulfly, Limp Bizkit at this time. Like, oh, let's have a collaboration with hip-hop artists and stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not Fear Factory. They've never done this beforehand.
No.
And to me, it's just like, oh, that's a track.
I looked into Be Real, and I think he was in Profit to Rate, like he has side projects and stuff. So
the dude is a cool motherfucker. I got no beef or anything like that. Absolutely love what he does.
But if the song did something different, then you'd be like, oh yes.
If it was something, if it felt like he was an important aspect, that's what I'm saying. Is that like he doesn't enhance anything. He's just there to throw off some words, some rhymes, verse. And that's about it. And it's like, is that it? Really?
My first thought was, I put, tell me you're in 2001 without telling me you're in 2001.
Okay.
Rapper with Cypress Hill, pretty generic new metal track. Doesn't do much for me. Feels cut and paste. So,
agreed.
We're both agreed on that one.
Byte Block, B-Y-T-E that is. A promising start. The choppy guitar rhythm and drums, the eccentric effects and the building wave of heaviness leads to a so-so level of familiarity. And I think I might be done with this record at this point. This feels like such a cut, copy and paste job.
I put the formula's getting a little bit dull, if I'm honest. Too long as well. It's over 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Far too long.
Yeah, I was beginning to check out, and I remembered why I never really bothered the latter part of this album. Because then we got Hurt Conveyor. Boring. There's a reason tracks like this never stuck when I first heard them. That's all I have to say. Boring.
Yeah.
You gonna add anything, Hurt Conveyor?
No, we haven't got to start. We haven't started Hurt Conveyor.
I just spoke about Hurt Conveyor. I literally just spoke about... That was me saying...
Sorry.
I jumped straight into Hurt Conveyor.
Did you?
Yeah, carry on.
I was still thinking about it. So I enjoyed this one a bit more. I like the pounding and the repetition in this one. And it grabbed me more than the other tracks.
Really? I found this one so boring. I didn't even want to write anything. Each to our own. Yeah. Right, keep up. And last but not least, we get Memory Imprints and bracket Never End. At least it's a big ending. One that calls upon the Fear Factory of old and utilises the melody and industrial side of the band well. I like how this one plays out and it gets grander as it goes on. I don't love it. And I do think Fear Factory would get so much better at delivering big endings. Yeah. But I feel like this is an early starting point to a degree. There's elements like timelessness back in the day, on Obsolete. They've always had that element, but I feel like this is them starting to stretch their muscles. Later on, they would really start pushing it to 8-9 minute long tracks. Yeah. But they're kind of playing around here. Don't love it. I like it. Glad it came along after Bite Block and Hurt Conveyor.
And the flames subside.
Fuck up.
So Fear Factory do like dramatic end tracks. I enjoyed it, but it doesn't feel as epic and special like other Fear Factory albums.
No, it doesn't. No, that is nailed right there. My God. Later Fear Factory albums, Genesis and stuff like that, would have some incredible finales. Some of the best stuff they've ever written.
And it said this is fourth album in, so I mean, I think sometimes with hindsight you can be a bit more like, well, this is 4 albums in, so they've kind of twiddled that and got better with it. But I wanted a bit more of a journey, and it felt a bit flat for me. So
yeah, it's hard because you're hearing this track and you're starting to hear what you'll recognise as a bit of old and a bit of the future, but they're not quite.
Yeah.
They've not nailed it yet. They've not got quite as good at it. You know. That's Fear Factory's Digimortal. Okay, top 3 tracks. I think we might be a little bit different on this one. So I'll go first because it's my turn. All right, the title track, Digimortal. Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies, and Acres of Skin.
Oh, we're nearly the same. I put Digimortal,
Okay.
Linchpin, and Invisible Wounds, Dark Bodies.
I knew you'd put Linchpin. I couldn't put Linchpin.
Love that song.
That is Fear Factory's Digimortal. You got any thoughts and you know what to do? Let us know in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?